Bavarian Prime Minister Markus Söder described the German auto industry as the destiny of Germany and its economy, and that without it, collapse is imminent or inevitable. Söder's words here are not an exaggeration at all. This is a fact that is proven by data. The decline of the automotive industry means a decline in German industry and the German economy in general. In August 2025, German industrial production fell to a level close to its level 20 years ago. Specifically in 2005. The main reason behind this decline in industrial production is the deterioration of the German automotive industry, whose production in August was 18.5% lower than the previous month. The German car industry is in a very big trouble and in an enviable situation. This industry, without exaggeration, could end or disappear completely within 15 or 20 years if the current situation continues as it is. The current situation is that German car companies are trapped in a vicious circle between two trains speeding towards them. The first train is Chinese car companies, which are currently sweeping the world with their electric cars, which are higher quality and cheaper than their German counterparts. The second train is the European Union's emissions regulations, which will ban the sale of internal combustion engine cars in Europe starting in 2005. In light of this predicament, the German auto industry has been shrinking in recent years. Factories are closing for the first time in decades, and tens of thousands of employees and workers are being laid off. The German auto industry crisis is an existential crisis for Germany, not just a temporary economic problem. And its solution lies primarily with German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. But will Merz be able to save the German auto industry? Will he be able to keep it on its feet in the face of the ravaging Chinese invasion? And what is China's role in the German auto crisis? That's part of what we'll be chatting about in today's episode. In late September 2021, a spokesperson for German auto giant Volkswagen announced that the company's factory in the German city of Zwickau would halt production for 2 weeks due to weak demand for the Audi Q4 Citroën electric car at the same time. In the same vein, Bloomberg reported, citing unnamed sources, that the German company had reduced working hours at its Emden plant, which produces the Volkswagen 47 electric car, and was considering halting production at the plant for several days, on the same day the announcement was made. German automaker Porsche, one of the world's largest suppliers of auto parts, has announced plans to lay off approximately 13,000 employees over the next 5 years. What is striking is that the steps announced by the two German companies are not primarily due to crises specific to them, unlike other German companies. In fact, what happened to Volkswagen and Bosch is part of a general decline affecting all German auto companies, which are slowly collapsing as global demand for their vehicles declines due to intense competition from Chinese cars on the one hand, and U.S. tariffs on the other. On October 7th, BMW released a statement indicating that the company's expected profits by the end of 2025 would be lower than previously announced, due to lower than expected demand for the company's cars in the Chinese market. A very important note. The German automotive industry is primarily export-driven. 3 out of every 4 cars produced in Germany are exported to foreign markets. This leaves the industry highly vulnerable to the risks of declining foreign demand. The Chinese market has traditionally been one of the largest markets in the world for German car companies. The Chinese have long been fascinated by German cars, especially luxury brands like Mercedes, but that was long ago. In recent years, Chinese car companies have skyrocketed to become the world's leader in electric vehicles. The Chinese are already producing the best and most advanced electric cars in the world, ahead of everyone else by at least 1 generation. Last February, Wang Chuanfu, CEO of the Chinese auto giant, said that the Chinese auto industry is 3 to 5 years ahead of its foreign competitors in terms of products, technology, and industrial production chain. The gap between Chinese companies and other foreign companies anywhere in the world, including Germany, is already large and is growing at a terrifying rate as foreigners are unable to keep up with the pace of development and innovation in the Chinese market. It is enough for you to know that on average every 2 days there is a new model in China. Every 2 days, a new car comes to the market with new technology and at a lower price than its competitors. Foreign companies, including German ones, are unable to keep up with this terrifying Chinese development, especially since the Chinese are failing and are hitting below the belt by undercutting prices and selling at prices far lower than those of foreigners in their quest to control the largest possible market share, both within the Chinese market, which is considered the largest car market in the world, and in foreign markets. China's leadership in the global electric vehicle industry is a natural result of the billions and years the Chinese have spent on research and development in this industry and its complementary industries. This has helped them surpass Japan in 2023 to become the world's largest exporter of electric vehicles. Importantly, In recent years, German companies' share of the massive Chinese market has continued to decline in favor of Chinese companies, particularly with the shift in Chinese consumer culture and their preference for Chinese brands, which are no longer in dispute. In light of these circumstances, 9 German companies have begun developing their electric vehicle technology in an attempt to catch up with China, while also expanding into markets other than China that can absorb their excess production. The largest market in the world for German cars is the US. At the beginning of this year, the Germans took a major hit when U.S. President Donald Trump decided in March 2025 to impose a 25% tariff on U.S. car imports. This tariff was a major blow to the German auto industry, as it was 10 times the existing tariff on German cars at the time. The tariffs, which were imposed on only 200 to 2,500 vehicles that went into effect in April, were added to the 215 already in effect, leaving German auto companies facing a total tariff of 27.5% on their exports to the U.S. market. Last July, Volkswagen announced that it lost $315 billion due to Trump's tariffs during the first half of 2025. This is simply due to its low sales in the U.S. market. Continuing this massive tariff would undoubtedly be devastating for the German auto industry, which is why Germans and Europeans in general continue to negotiate with Trump until he agreed to reduce it to 15% effective August 1st. This tariff is still high compared to the previous tariff, but in the end, 15% is much better than the previous 25%. These are all German problems on the demand side and the supply side. There remains a more serious problem looming regarding the very existence of the industry itself. The Germans, as you know, are world champions in the manufacture of internal combustion engine cars that run on fossil fuels like diesel and gasoline. The German automotive industry and its associated supply chains, which have been built over decades on the idea of manufacturing cars with internal combustion engines. Now, as the world shifts towards electric cars, which are based on vastly different technologies and supply chains, German car companies are being called upon to reinvent themselves, remaining electric or clean energy companies, and completely forgetting the industry they spent their lives in, internal combustion engine cars. This is because there is a European decision to end this industry forever in March 2023. European Union countries have finally approved the historic law under which sales of any new cars that emit carbon dioxide will be ended starting in 2025. This law effectively ends the internal combustion engine car market in the European Union within 10 years. Consequently, European car companies, particularly German ones, have been forced to change their skin and rapidly transition to clean energy vehicles in recent years. European car companies have invested tens of billions of euros in developing battery technology, but with the meteoric rise of the Chinese in Europe, they're beginning to realize that it will take much longer than they imagined to transition to electric vehicles and compete with the Chinese, who are currently far ahead and are eating into the market under these circumstances. German car companies have been bleeding and suffering for at least 2 years, trying as hard as they can to survive. However, as time goes on, the situation worsens and the factors leading to collapse pile up, not to mention the crisis of weak demand and fierce competition with Chinese cars. German automakers have been struggling with a cost crisis for more than 3 years due to energy prices that have risen sharply since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The invasion deprived German industry of cheap Russian gas, which had fueled its prosperity over recent decades. All of these factors contributed to the deterioration of the German auto industry's economics and its incurring of significant losses, forcing it to cut costs in an attempt to survive, according to estimates by the international consulting firm Ernst & Young. The German automotive sector alone lost approximately 6.7% of its workforce, or 250,000 jobs, between June 2024 and June 2025. Every country has laid off people, and more are expected. They will be phased out in the next few years, according to a recent survey by the German Association of the Automotive Industry. Nearly 30 auto parts suppliers in Germany said they plan to lay off some of their workers, while 80% said they have decided to either postpone, relocate, or cancel their investments altogether. This number could increase if German auto companies continue in their current predicament, which can best be described as being caught between a rock and a hard place. On the other hand, the Chinese are merciless and unflappable, and are literally in a race with themselves to develop electric cars. On the other hand, the European Union's deadline for the end of the internal combustion engine car industry is approaching. If we live in 2035 and German car companies are still stuck at the same point, this means they are writing their own end, because the internal combustion engine car industry, in which they currently excel, no longer has a market in Europe. Based on this, the solution that the Germans have been considering recently is that we, as the group, must cancel or find a solution to the zero emissions law by 2025, because this means that our current industry will be worthless within 10 years, and we have so far been unable to transition to the alternative, which is the electric car industry. Hence, German car companies resorted to the German government, raising the slogan, "Help me, government." On October 9, 2025, the Auto Summit was held in Berlin, attended by senior executives of German car companies, representatives of trade unions in the automotive sector, and senior German government leaders, led by Chancellor Friedrich Merz. After the summit, Merz made statements saying, "I am doing everything I can to lift the EU's planned ban on internal combustion engine vehicles by 2025. He also said that he is against having a deadline or final date that German companies cannot adhere to. The German Chancellor is clearly seeking to save the traditional German auto industry, a legitimate and noble goal given that the state of the auto industry has a profound impact on German industry and the economy as a whole. In a note to clients, Karsten Brzezinski, head of global macroeconomics at ING Bank, noted that industrial production in Germany is declining rapidly, and the likelihood of the German economy falling into a technical recession has increased. But the problem with Merz's attempt to save the German auto industry by seeking to lift the 2025 ban is that it will undoubtedly backfire on all European companies that have already invested billions of euros in battery and electric vehicle technology, believing that this is the future. If Germany succeeds in forcing the European Union to abandon its 2025 target, many investors who had bet on the future of electric vehicles in Europe have taken a huge hit, and a significant portion of their investments have been wiped out. As a result, last September, 150 companies operating in the electric vehicle sector, including Samsung, Uber, Volvo, and Polestar, were forced to abandon their plans. They sent open letters to European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, stressing the need for the EU to adhere to the decision to ban internal combustion engine cars starting in 2025. They stated in their letter, "Our companies and their sectors have already allocated hundreds of billions of euros to new investments, contributing to the creation of more than 150,000 new jobs in giant battery factories in France and Germany, and new or refurbished car factories in Slovakia and Belgium." They then warned that postponing the 2025 target would weaken investor confidence and give global competitors a permanent advantage over us. The talk here was mostly about the Chinese, whom everyone was trying to catch up with or escape from. That's true. If the Germans try to manipulate the 2025 target to save their struggling industry, they will deal a fatal blow to the entire European electric car industry, allowing the Chinese to widen the existing gap between them by light years. This point brings me to the question of the episode. In your opinion, can Chinese cars truly compete with German and Japanese brands here in the United States? Do you think they could ever become the top choice for American drivers? I'll follow your answers in the comments. Finally, if you liked the episode and would like to see us again, subscribe to the channel and wait for us in new episodes.